Imagine being the last person to speak a language. Imagine never being able to have a discussion again because your language simply doesn't exist anymore. Imagine never being able to have the food you grew up with as a child because you no longer have relatives who know the recipes. Their, the history is gone. Imagine never being able to play the games you knew as a child because nobody knows them anymore and there's nobody to play with. Imagine being taken from your home, never to return, because that land now belongs to someone else. Every day, there are people in this world that face these issues. Every day, there's a new group or government that causes a culture to die or to become so oppressed that they're no longer at all what they once were. All of this happens so that someone else can profit from the land, the resources, and the human lives. Today, I'd like to explore the argument that progression in the form of industrialization and civilization is detrimental to native populations. Bringing technology and wealth to an underdeveloped country has many positive effects on the receiving populace. Whether it be plumbing or new ways to harvest food. But those effects also can be extremely destructive to the culture of the people who live there. Progress has many non-progressive attributes that keep the lower income poor and hungry and struggling, while others above their class maintain a steady course towards real progress. Progress for some cultures or nations can be the largest form of ecocide or ethnocide for others that they have influence over. Indigenous people all around the world have and still are losing their land and their ways of life. Even though some indigenous people have survived the ever-changing world, others will not. And it's a sad truth. Ethnocide is the destruction of an ethnic group's language, culture, and history. It is ever present and an ever-growing issue that is destroying cultures around the world to this day. Governments are the main factor in why certain people are victims of ethnocide and then kept poor so they cannot have any power or authority on their native soil. All around the world and throughout history, humanity has seen the great accomplishments of explorers, imperial leaders, and world superpowers, and how they brought civilization and order to areas of the world that were cut off from the wonders of technology and leisure. They created jobs for the new settlements, such as agriculture, farming, factory work, what have you. While some of the natives were being gifted by learning new languages or obtaining medicine and new technology, others, will be moved from their homes, forced to undergo slave labor, and will be hated because of differences like their language or their skin color or their something as stupid as their eating habits. And they could be killed for that. Anytime there has been an introduction of a new, greater civilization to one who is considered less, there is always some aspect of injustice and suffering among the receiving ethnic group. The United States of America is a prime example of how progression for some meant genocide and slavery for others. The Native Americans suffered greatly when invading colonials took their land, brought disease, and killed most of their populations. all for progress. Then the Americans, along with many other nations, went all throughout Africa invading there, and again, buying and selling people like cattle so they could use them for slavery to build their new world with greater ease. Even today, the United States of America continues to affect many ethnic groups by keeping them in poverty or fear throughout many different sources. The African Americans in this country are subjected to police brutality and poverty because of the government's agenda. If the government really wanted to help, they would spend more money in Black communities and strive for better education and opportunities for these people. Instead, it is beneficial to the government to keep areas poor and full of crime so that the police have work and the politicians have more excuses to ask for funding and send funding around for all these problem areas. So, in conclusion, without giving a complete world history lesson, the example involving the United States is more than enough to prove that progression really only benefits some and makes life hell for others, and it is in a lot of different cases. There needs to be a way that people can introduce new concepts and integrate new culture without destroying another. Many indigenous people around the world have lost their homes and their ways of life, again, due to the progress brought by another nation. So how will we, as a human race, discontinue to exploit other nations and cultures for financial gain? How can we let the extermination of diversity go on?